Morning everyone, and welcome to this SoCrowd webinar. The webinar's for education marketeers like yourself on how to use social media to showcase your institution. My name is James Bird. I'm hosting the webinar. I'm the lead here at SoCrowd. If you've not heard of SoCrowd, we're a social media management platform which helps you manage all your Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, your platforms in one place. It helps with the analytics to make sure that you're performing in the right way and with your social media. If you want to find out more, then go to our website, SoCrowd.com. That's the little plug there. I'm joined today by our trusted social media advisor, Luann Wise. Morning, Luann.
Morning.
Luann, just as an intro, is an independent marketing consultant with over 20 years experience working across a range of sectors, including education. In addition to running her consultancy and training business, she's a LinkedIn learning course instructor, an accredited lead trainer for Meta, and author, I'm going to plug it here, the award-winning book, Relax, It's Only Social Media, which I think you can probably find at all good bookshops, Luann.
Second version out next year, James.
Right, well there you go, so we've got you just before that. The format for the webinar is really clear. Luann's going to present some insights for us and best practice for using social media to showcase your education institution, whether that's a school, academy or university. We'll then have a question and answer session. So if you want to put some questions in the chat function of the webinar, that would be great. We'll ask as many as we can. I know some people have already submitted some. And also just to note that if you recently went to the Schools and Academies show at the NEC, you'll know that we did a competition where one lucky school or academy could win a free video produced by SoCrowd, the SoCrowd team. So Luann will also announce the winner at the end of the webinar. I'm going to switch off my camera, so I'm not a distraction in the background, but I will be back for the question and answer session. As I hand over, there is a poll question which we're putting up, which is just about your background. So what institution you're from, which will help Luann in terms of the webinar content. So without further ado, I shall catch you in about 40 minutes and over to Luann.
Brilliant, thank you, James. And welcome. I know some of you have all been joining as James did that intro there, but if you could just let us know where you're from today, that would be really useful. As you're doing that, I'll share that we are recording the session, so you will get a copy of the recording, a copy of the slides afterwards as well. I have packed it full of examples, full of resources for you for whichever category you're answering now. I think I've got all of you covered in some shape or form with an example throughout, and as James said, we have got time for Q&A at the end, so please do use that chat box. I'm hoping that you will get some quick wins out of today, as well as some kind of thoughts for some longer term considerations. Emma, have we got the answer to the poll there? There we go. So 53% of you from universities. Hello, I may know some of you on there. Please do say hello in the chat. And also some 17% primary school, 9% secondary, some college and other as well. So please do use that chat as we go through. As James said, I'm a marketer, have been for over 20 years, and throughout my time in marketing and running a consultancy business for the last 11 years now, I have worked with over 20 different universities and colleges with guest teaching, academics supporting them and marketing teams. And as a social media specialist, I follow a lot of education accounts. So I may not necessarily be in your target audience all of the time, but I do follow what you're doing. And it is my job to understand your audiences as well. So let's start. What am I going to cover in 40 minutes? I'm going to talk a little bit about the landscape. You know, we're in December, so we need to be looking forward to 2023 right now. Sharing with you some of the feedback that you shared with SoCrowd via a survey and at that Schools and Academies show, your challenges, and I've got some tips for those. We'll talk about content ideas. I also wanted to talk about community management today as well, because in terms of showcasing your institution and working in your sector, it is not all about posting content. You know, we need ideas, we need to be posting, but I know that there is also a huge resource that is needed for kind of managing those comments and feedback, and we will talk about measurements that matter too. So as I said, hopefully some reassurance, some new ideas, quick wins and longer term things for you to take away from the session and watch back if you want to. So let's start with your audience, and this is the first time I've said this, but here comes Generation Alpha. Our Generation Alpha, born in 2012, they will start turning into teenagers next year. I know that, you know, they're obviously in primary schools at the moment. They'll be coming through to secondary schools, universities, colleges. You need to be starting thinking about this next generation that's coming through while you continue to focus on Gen Z. Our Gen Z, our 18-year-olds who started university in September, they were born in 2004, which, you know, is the year that Facebook was created by Zuckerberg in his dorm room at Harvard. Christmas number one, because we're coming up to that time, was Do They Know It's Christmas? You know, we have got very different generations in our target audiences right now, but we really do need to start thinking about this Gen Alpha as they become teens, because they can join social media when they hit 13. They can create their own accounts on the platforms. I'll revisit that again shortly, because we do know, anyone that has any contact with Gen Alpha, that they are creating their own social media profiles before 13, some of them on some platforms, but the criteria is 13, so they need to start being part of our consideration set in terms of marketing from next year. Quite a lot of data on this slide, but what I wanted to do in this presentation was give you snapshots and resources that you can visit afterwards. And if you're ever looking for any social media data around users, numbers, by platform, by age, by gender, datareportal.com would be my go-to. Overall, it's about a 300 slide report. I've just got one screenshot from it to show you here. A snapshot from October, and this is global overview, but you can get country by country data as well. People's favorite social media platforms. And without focusing on the numbers, really the summary is different age groups have different preferences for different social media platforms, and that changes. But something to also highlight, and I'm sure you're all aware of this, is that people don't just use one social media platform, they have several. In fact, the average number of platforms from this report says that people are using 7.2 different social media platforms every month right now. WhatsApp is included in that, Facebook Messenger is included in that, YouTube could be included as well. But just the data summarized in this chart, highlighted in orange, is quite simply your 16 to 24-year-olds right now, their favorite social media platform is Instagram. And for your 35 to 44, which is an older demographic, but I'll talk about that in a second, that is also really relevant for education marketing. The favorite is Facebook. How you define favorite is obviously quite personal, but as we know that people are using more than one platform, that there is a complete mix in there as well. It's not just a single platform answers the question. And that is really highlighted in a report that is specifically about Gen Z. As I said, we'll see Gen Alpha reports coming through over the next couple of years. But I love this chart and think about, while I'm not Gen Z, my own use of social media and how, yeah, we do change what we do throughout the day, not just social media, but other media as well, whether it's TV, radio, newspapers, reading, etc., and how that changes throughout the day. So it really does highlight that there is a primary platform. Quite clearly, you can see that Instagram is the most popular until late at night, 11 p.m. and later, when some TikTok scrolling and video watching on YouTube takes over. All important data. But if you've ever seen any of my other webinars and content, while it's important to look at this data and understand this data, What I don't want to do is overwhelm you and think that you all need to go away and be on all of these platforms all of the time, because at the end of the day, you have a limited amount of resources. And I'm going to look at time management shortly with a few tips, hopefully for you. So we know Gen Z are important, Gen Alpha are going to be important, but a really key audience for education marketing, as you all know, is parents and carers as well. And I wanted to call out here some content from Nottingham Trent University. If you're on the session, then please do say hello. As I said, I watch a lot of content that's out there, but Nottingham Trent in particular always catch my eye around the content they create for parents and carers. Whether it's a Facebook post giving a guide on what to do at an open day if you're accompanying your young person, love it. The middle one, we're talking about content ideas, but this was a live Q&A, a live video Q&A. Are you unsure about how you can help with your dependence journey to university? Join our live session, find out more and get your questions answered. You need to support your parents and carers, and there's clear ways of doing it, from the events they attend, the content you put out, Q&A sessions, and through to Nottingham Trent have an email list for if you're a parent or guardian of a current student and want a dedicated newsletter to know what's happening, how you can support their experience, you can sign up as well. And by sharing kind of screenshots throughout this presentation is not just to show that I'm watching and know what's going on, but to highlight to you how important it is for you to look at what each other is doing. Yes, you do have competitors, whether that's your location or by subject area for universities, but really do have a look at what each other's doing. Do take inspiration. There's very few completely original ideas. I'm not encouraging you to copy exactly, but take inspiration and ideas from each other inside the sector and outside as well, because your parents and carers, your potential students, your current students are interacting with brands and other accounts on social media. So be part of this comms channel and watch what's going on and take ideas. Now, in the survey said that was shared on social by SoCrowd and also part of the Schools and Academies show, which some of you may have gone to, you highlighted some benefits of social media. And that is that your audience, your primary audiences, your students, your parents and your carers are already active on these platforms. There are also opportunities to separate your content for different year groups, whether that's current students, whether that's your alumni once they've left you. There is nice features differing by platform where you can really focus on specific groups and the information that they need. Your staff can get involved easily because many of them will be active on social media too. The real-time nature of social media, I think, is one of the biggest benefits, that it's quick. If you need to know what's going on, you need to get something out there relatively quickly to lots of your audience, then news and events it's great for. It is also useful for recruitment, particularly LinkedIn on that platform. See many of you using LinkedIn for recruitment, but Facebook, Instagram, great as well. Not just for explicit "we're recruiting" ads, but to get a flavour of what your institution is like. And also social media gives you lots of data. I'm going to talk about that later in terms of there is a lot of data, what do we need to look at? But ultimately, as the title of this webinar is about showcasing your institution, it's absolutely great for that top of the marketing funnel, for awareness. It is your showcase to the world, the millions of users, but also a place where you can demonstrate social proof. You can show what's happening. You can receive reviews, comments, testimonials about your institution as well, not just on your own channels, but in other groups and accounts too. Now, I know that's a benefit, and it is also a challenge. I'm well aware, working in social media, there are also many, many challenges, and these post-it notes that were created again at the show on a Miro board There's a few topics in there around gaining admissions, dealing with negative comments, lack of control, it takes time. And yes, you know, all of those things are true. I'm not denying that there's challenges. But the ones that I'm going to talk briefly about today are online safety, finding the time, you as the person that's working in social media, building your audience, content, what to post, and then measuring success. As we said, please do use the chat box if you've got anything that you want to ask me or James throughout the session. I'll start with safety. You know, I know particularly for primary schools, secondary schools, but all of you have safeguarding policies to adhere to. We need to be conscious of online safety, not just for our audience, but for our users as well. For the younger audiences, the Gen Alpha that I talked about earlier, there was in the last couple of months a report out from Ofcom about use of social media. And the respondents to that, it's UK, said 42% of 5 to 12-year-olds are using social media. That is under the age limit for signing up for an account. And 90% of the parents surveyed said they were aware of those age limits. Now, there are measures in place, and obviously the platforms are trying to make sure that there's age verification, but you know, there is a lot of accounts being set up, getting around that verification. And the real danger is what's happening is that there are restrictions at younger ages until 18 in terms of being able to be advertised to, in terms of some features. But what happens if they don't use the correct age when they join, they are seeing adult content before they are adults. So there are concerns around this. That's possibly outside of your control, but it is something that I know we all need to be aware of. And you may have seen it's been in Parliament again the last couple of weeks. It was put on hold over the summer while there was, you know, other topics taking precedent. But the online safety bill is going through. It's intended to become law before next summer, and it's about making the UK the safest place to be online, but at the same time balancing the opportunity to have free expression. It is still in discussion. There is a number of elements to it. I'm not going to go through online safety expertise today. Maybe it's a webinar we will look at next year when it becomes law to explain more about it. But we are aware there are privacy settings on the platforms. If you need to know more about this, pop a question, or happy to pick up on it separately afterwards. So let's dive into probably what is your biggest challenge. No one ever has enough of this, and that is time. So my top tips here, I can't give you, well, I could sell you some of my time actually, but I can't create more hours in the working day, and you know, you may not have budgets for additional resources. So it's all about how you manage your time. And I know within schools and colleges, social media would just be probably part of your role. If you're in a university, you may be entirely responsible for social media, but there's still limited resource available. You could be doing more. I urge you to just do what you can, and do what you can to the best of your ability. Most importantly, show up consistently. And I'm not going to tell you what that level is. It's about what works for you and the resources that you have got. But I would say, from looking through accounts in preparation for this, you should have posted since the summer. You know, it does need consistently showing up once or twice a month, perhaps on LinkedIn, once a week, maybe on Facebook, a bit more on Twitter, but do try and keep showing up, but pick a level of posting that works for you. Don't be thinking out in January, I'm going to post every day, and that peters out by February. Think about your calendar, your schedule of work, and how you can fit this in to show up consistently. In terms of your social media profiles, I think it's really important. You may have heard me on other webinars say this before, and it's a simple housekeeping exercise, but I think gets overlooked a lot. Make sure that your bio on your accounts, your about section, tells people what the account is for and sets some expectations. And I picked this one out. I am an alumni of Sheffield Hallam, but I liked this because It says in their Twitter bio, we respond 9 AM to 5 PM, Monday to Friday. And if I need support with an application or uni life, there is a separate Twitter account for that. So it's very clear. I found this Twitter page, when is it managed? And if I need help with something specific, which is why I may have gone on, actually, here's the place to go. Within your accounts as well, I urge you to use pinned posts for key messages. When we did a previous webinar back in September, there was lots of accounts using pinned posts because it was around the time of the mourning period for the Queen, and people were pinning posts to say what was happening. Right now, the amount of accounts I looked through over the last few days, there are no pinned posts. They are great for key messages, what's happening, what's on, what's the latest thing that you need to do. You can pin and unpin, but they are really a feature that should be used more. So I encourage you to see if you have got a pinned post, or perhaps with the holidays coming up, that you make sure that you've got something in place ahead of that. I'm not a huge fan of lots of automation in terms of social media, but in terms of managing your time, it can be hugely helpful. So do consider, particularly on your DMs, your direct messages, your inboxes, use some automated responses. You may use them constantly, you may use them out of hours. Change that message depending on what's happening at the time. Make sure that you've got your out of hours messages in there, your holiday cover, when it comes to exam results. Let it help you manage your audience and their questions and your resources as well. Point to a frequently asked question page in there so that you don't actually have to go back in and respond. Help people self-serve. And depending on the content that you're posting and your resources, you know, social media is about being social, but there may be occasions where actually you're posting a bit more of a statement, a bit more of information about what's happening. Just think you may be dealing with strep A at the moment and what's happening. You can switch off comments. You can switch them off at the beginning as you post, or perhaps if something is becoming unmanageable for certain reasons, you can switch them off as well. Just urge you to be in control of this and not let it take over as much as you possibly can. And of course, you can do things natively, but whatever social media management tool you're using, this is of course a screenshot from SoCrowd, you can use these tools to help manage your time in terms of scheduling content to go out, in terms of responding to those messages and those DMs as well. So if you haven't got a tool at the moment, speak to SoCrowd for a demo, revisit your tool and just check that you're using all the features that you possibly can. So, bit of prep. Now, also talking about first impressions. I mentioned about your bio, the about section, setting expectations. I'm using positive screenshots in this presentation, but honestly, I looked at a lot of examples before choosing these ones. I saw header images that were out of focus, that had people with their eyes shut, and not intentionally. The photo was just taken with their eyes shut, with heads cut off, with, I don't even know what some of the images were. Honestly, please have a look at your header photos. Have a look at your profile photo and make sure that your logo or your icon fits within the circle. That's got to be a quick win, but it's so important. It's your brand, whether it's a branded header image like this one from Anglia Ruskin, whether it's a beautiful building shot like this one from Dulwich. It is about building know, like and trust, that first impression. If you are using pictures of buildings, this is clearly beautiful. I would say make sure that you pick something that is meaningful to people, that people will know what it is. Alumni may know, staff and students may know, but will your prospective audience potentially know what that zoom into part of your campus, your institution is? And remember, again, you can change these at any time, but please do check the quality. I saw some shockers out there, if I'm honest. Building your audience. As I said, we are coming on to content, but this is about prep. Are those housekeeping things in place? You want more followers. You know, quite naturally, you want people to see your content. You want to be building awareness. You want people to engage with you. So make it really easy for people to find your social media accounts. I've used this example for a while because I just think it's a great one by University of Nottingham, where they have a page on their website that is very simply a directory of their accounts. I'm sure all of you have multiple accounts and this challenge as well, but if you do, make it easy for people to find. Have them as links in your website footer. Of course, I say of course, they're not all there, they're not all working. If you have multiple accounts, make sure, try and see if there's a page on your website where you can kind of have this hub, this link of where people need to go. Put them in your email signatures. If you've got print material around your institution, put those social media icons on there. COVID has brought back the QR code and made it useful and valuable again. So stick some QR codes, encourage people to follow you. And to do that, you need to let them know why. You may have put it in the bio, but let people know why they should follow. Is it because they'll find out about events, they'll know what's going on, what's happening, key dates? Think about your why and then tell your potential audience that as well. And again, this is a snapshot in an hour's webinar, but you could be promoting your account, your Facebook page, your Instagram account, your TikTok, your LinkedIn. You could be considering paid advertising. Now, you can't target under 18s on social media, so you need to be thinking about those other audiences. So I've just pulled out an example here of some criteria that you could be using on Meta for Facebook and Instagram, and that is people who like your page, make sure that they see your content, or some targeting options. And location is a clear one for any institution type, but you can also target those parents, those carers, by the age of the child that they have. So again, just a snapshot, but wanted to highlight these to you, that there are options for building your audience for free. Simply make sure people know about it, through to paid options as well. And for those of you that are starting or maybe established in using TikTok, there are paid for options as well. They have a number of case studies on their website of using TikTok for open days, for promoting around UCAS deadline, for personal statements. I had a look at TikTok, didn't find any examples right now for primary, secondary colleges, but do keep having a look. And I just thought for 53% of you that are watching this live from universities, that those links could be useful for you to take a look at afterwards. As I said, do look at what other people are doing, take inspiration and ideas. Okay. I could do a whole webinar on this, but I have just summarized a few points onto a slide around what makes a good social media post. Whether this is a full-time role for you or a part-time part of your role, you are posting on social media, you are aiming to stop people scrolling. You're aiming for a thumb-stopping moment as people are either scrolling on a desktop or on a mobile. And to do that, you need a strong visual or a headline, some strong copywriting that is going to capture attention. And as I said about those kind of first impressions, please do, use strong visuals. And video, increasingly important on social media. There's been lots of data around this year around the importance of video. The platforms themselves have been talking about the importance of video. You might have been surprised earlier that Instagram was coming out as the most favorite, because TikTok has been the most downloaded app for almost 2 years now. Every month, that video content is important. And as a social media post, it's the first 3 seconds that capture attention. That's how the data is often measured. Creating a video for social media is very different to creating a video that's a show reel or something that you may have used in marketing in the past. And as a kind of checklist around what makes a good social media post, I like these 5 E's. It's easy to remember. You may not be able to do all of them all of the time, particularly entertaining if it's a serious content piece around health information or exam results or something like that. But try and think about, is your content educational? Is it engaging for the audience? Is it effective in getting your message across? If it can entertain by being interesting, brilliant. But most of all, it's about encouraging action. When you are writing a social media post, what do you want people to do when they see it? And bear that in mind. Tell them what you need them to do in the post. Do you want them to sign up for an open day event? Do you want them to complete a survey? Do you want them to attend something? Do you want them to remind their student, their young person about something? You may know, but the amount of posts I see that just miss out that implied action, make it really easy. People are scrolling, got to tell them what you want them to do. As I said, you know, lots of things make a good social media post: good copy, good headlines, spacing, calls to action, emojis if you want to, hashtags to help people find your content. But hopefully there's just a few bits in here as a reminder or as a checklist as you're looking through what other people are doing as well. But this importance of showcasing your institution is really about your brand. Your institution has a brand. Every piece of content, every interaction from and with your institution online is visible, and it contributes to your brand image. So I have mentioned imagery, but think about your image style and try and be consistent with it. You may be only able to use image libraries where there is free imagery. Unsplash.com is one. You may have access to a paid library around Shutterstock. Ideally, your own photography. And going back to the online safety, I know that there is safeguarding policies in place, particularly where there's younger students, of whether you can take photos, get permissions. You know the rules around that, but do just think about your image style. Think about your brand colors and getting them across within the imagery, within the copy, with headlines that go across it. Be known for your colors and being recognizable. Your fonts as well, you know, consistently. I'm sure you all know this, but as a reminder, and then be thinking about your tone of voice. Do you say hello? Do you say hi? Do you say hey? Create some do's and don'ts if there's more than one of you around your social media, around your language that you use. Accessibility is also important. Best practices for, you know, the huge number of people that actually have some sort of disability, maybe using screen readers. Is your font clear enough? Can people read it? The font size, the color contrast, the language that you're using, not using emojis to replace words so that a screen reader can't understand it. Consider those best practices. And I'd also say, if you're creating graphics, your own graphics, what I see quite often, and I will say it's particularly on kind of primary and secondary education, is don't just take a flyer and post that on social media, because very often your flyers have lots of copy on there and lots of logos, and it's really hard to read. So you do need to design and use imageries that has social media in mind. Very often now you can do everything square and it will work across all platforms, but do just think about people using it on a mobile, scrolling through quickly, and you know, you can't just replicate print online. Let's have a look at some content ideas. These are all taken from looking through accounts that are out there. Bear in mind there's a mixture of content over the next few slides. There is data. Again, we can share some with you afterwards if you're looking for it. What content is performing well right now? Well, carousels, where you kind of swipe through more than one image, that's working really well. Video content, said it a few times. And this is not just coming out from data, the platforms themselves, you know, the head of Instagram goes on his account weekly and says, we're focusing on video, this is what we're doing. So bear all of those kind of content formats in mind, as well as the ideas for what your content needs to communicate. I'd love to hear if anyone's got any content that's really worked well for them and they're happy to share with each other, then do pop it in the content and we'll have time to kind of read those out at the end of the session. Why? I didn't see enough of this kind of why content from looking at a cross-section of accounts over the past week or so. You know, as you're looking for examples, you're kind of really quite focused on it. But I did find this really nice example from Alton School that, you know, literally, why choose us for nursery and preschool? Mrs. Payne, reception teacher, explains all here. See us in action tomorrow, sign up on our website. That's linking to a video, but it's about why choose us. Gloucestershire College, local to me, I've done some teaching there in the past. Why study university level courses at GC? And this was a carousel with multiple options on there. Nice and easy. In the caption as well, you know, did you know? Learn more, book your place. Link is in the bio. Don't forget your core why content. You can repeat this often as well. Demonstrate your values and show what's unique about your institution. Now, in education marketing and other areas, you know, we're doing an event today. Events are so important to you. Getting people, for new students, onto site, onto campus, onto the schools to have a look are so important, and found lots of this content. Open days are back, sign up now. Open event, sign up today. Come to our next open event, your career starts here. Brilliant. Not just events to you know, come and have a look, but also free online taster lectures. Great. The top left one from UEA says open days are back now. Of course, things have been different for this year. Okay, but for 2 years, you know, it was harder to get people onto campus, if at all, throughout a couple of years recruitment cycles. So virtual tours were important. And actually, if you go onto UCAS, you can find this great page that is a directory of university virtual tours. There was some on schools and colleges as well as I looked around. But if you want to have a look at what people are doing, they are still important. They are important for people doing their very early searches before they decide to go to open days. It is quite expensive for people to attend multiple open days. So having a virtual tour still in place, still available, is useful as people are searching, but also for international students as well. And again, my institution, I love on their Instagram, they're often doing posts like this with a nice graphic at the front. What's on at Hallam? Unmissable events around the city and campus. And that is good for current students, but it's also important for prospective students, because they'll be able to see what they could be getting involved with if they go to your institution. So you're kind of reaching multiple audiences with that kind of what's on content as well. And you will be having events not just for prospective students, but for current students, for wider communities, for alumni as well. Brilliant content for social media. Just make it work as hard as you can. As I said, all these audiences, life as a student content, love seeing life as a student content. This one on the left was from Witham Hall School. Borders, they've been creating gingerbread houses that have been put together by the catering team. There was competition, and again, this was a carousel, so you could swipe through and see not the work in progress and some messy icing going on behind the scenes before this beautiful shot at the end. Lovely for the current students to potentially see. I think these are under 13, so perhaps they didn't, but their parents and carers could see it, and future students' parents could see it as well. And an example on the left, again from UEA, but a really nice reel video here around autumn as a UEA student, showcasing Norwich, what it's like at this time of year for a UEA student. Nice tips for current students, great for future students to be able to picture themselves there over the next couple of years. Reassuring for parents and carers that they're in a nice location and there's lots for them to do, but also a nice sense of nostalgia for alumni as well. So this kind of content can hit the mark for lots of different audiences. More ideas. In your roles, the people watching this, you can't do it all. I said at the beginning, do what you can within the time and the resources that you've got available, and do involve your colleagues. And I would say the way to do this is to make it really easy. You've got to have a specific ask, not I need help with social media or I need you to contribute to social media. Be really specific with the ask. If you're running an event, can you take a photo for me? Frequently asked questions is a great format for content. It doesn't always need to be as explicit as a here's the question and here's the answer, but just ask your colleagues, in a team meeting or when you meet them in a corridor, what questions did you get asked at the last open day, or what are your students asking us about the Christmas holidays? Q&A content, really easy, can keep using it all the time. And if you want to read up on this as a kind of a content concept, this is a brilliant book by Marcus Sheridan. It just explores the whole they ask, you answer, and different types of FAQs. Other content ideas, myth busting. It could be about your location, it could be about the institution, it could be about staff, students, what it's like to study, do you need to go to university, what options are there for sports here? You will know if there's any myths around your institution or your location, but also just, what it's like to study, be here, be within education. There's always myths to bust as well. You will have key date information to communicate, such as application deadlines, exam timetables, etc. Make sure you include that in your social media content. I'm not saying do every awareness day. We know that there's a lot of awareness days out there. Didn't check what today was, but there is always key dates out there. Some are health related, some are just fun. Don't try and do them all, but sometimes some of them can be useful and relevant to your students, to what you're doing. Mental Health Awareness Week, for example. Consider that as a content option too. For some of you, it's National Apprenticeship Week in February, something I'm planning for with a client at the moment. So as you start to plan out your content with why, student life, events, Q&A, actually there's a lot of ideas in here, looking at what others are doing. Then of course it is about finding the time, but hopefully you won't be short of ideas. It's not just your colleagues. This will be easier for further and higher ed students to get involved as they're older, they're using social media legitimately a bit more. Prospective students want to hear from their peers. They want to hear peer-to-peer content. And again, I'm calling out Nottingham Trent because they have a content collective. Emily, the social media manager, is often posting about the work that they're doing on her own LinkedIn around finding students, inducting them, getting them involved. So I think that's brilliant. And Warwick Business School, during Freshers Week, they let their students take over their Instagram account. They did a student takeover and had a number of students posting on stories and this carousel throughout the week to show what was happening. Again, it's useful for current students, but also for the next intake as well to see what it's all about. We've got our profiles nicely set up. We've got some great content going out. We now need to engage with our community. Just got a few slides and then we will have time, 10 minutes for questions. You are the voice of your brand. You do need to engage with your audiences. Sometimes that's a kind of a customer service element, answering queries and inquiries that may come in, particularly through DMs. If anyone wants kind of more on this, Facebook has their own series of online learning and certifications. They're free to do the online learning. There is a small fee for the certifications, but one of the courses that they have is a specific community manager course. So if that is relevant for you and you'd like some training and background on that, I would highly recommend having a look at the courses. And the community manager, I've done that one, it's useful. There's a lot to do around community management and it can't be ignored, and that's why the kind of automated responses and switching off comments can sometimes be useful. I love this example by the Open University, where they had a student voice week in November. They asked questions every day, a simple one or the other, use a like or use a heart to cast your vote. and even included some video content with staff members talking about the topic, asking a question, and then kind of closing with the vote, and then telling you what the answer was as well. Polls, surveys, that make it clear what you want people to do, and they get involved. And also showcasing the wider community and how your institution gets involved. And again, just because of the accounts I was looking at, UEA had an example of being part of a network of universities supporting the Norwich and Great Yarmouth area. They took photos. They had a lovely example of their UEA ballet team who were going out to perform for residents at a local care home. Thought that was amazing, showcasing what you're doing in local communities as well. And Gloucestershire College, who had a visit by a local organisation to help their catering students and work with them as well. So, you know, your partnerships and what's happening is again good content, but good for wider community engagement, work experience, placement opportunities, all that kind of stuff. And it's a test bed. You know, I can't give you a definitive, this is what you should do and when you should do it, because things are always changing. Your audience is always changing. The world around us is always changing. So you need to be kind of able to change with what's happening in the world and continually look for improvement. Plan for some testing. It's okay to fail. Sometimes things won't work, and that's okay too. There is no, as I said, no bullet points. So you've got to be thinking about, I'm just going to try this out. I'm going to see what happens. But measure what matters. Said at the beginning, measurement is a benefit of social media. There is so much data available. My quick answer to this is, if you know what to do with a number, it's useful, it matters. If you've no idea what to do with the data that you're presented with, whether it's raw numbers or charts, probably doesn't matter. Think about what is important for you and what becomes actionable. It may be really important, particularly if you're measuring brand awareness, to be thinking about followers and reach or impressions. If you're looking to see how well your content is performing, you will be looking at engagement. Is it getting likes, reactions, shares? Website traffic, if you need people to go and look at your course information, your facilities, things like that, website traffic is going to be important, and you can track the click-throughs on that. And I've talked about events, you know, event signups is an important measure as well. So focus on the measures that matter to you and look for continuous improvement. Use the data that you have to guide your activity and your decision making. Here's a screenshot from data that's available within SoCrowd about your content performance, your best times to post. You can look at lots of data and reports that are out there, but ultimately your answers are usually within your own data. So do understand what's there and how it can work. The platform features and algorithms are always changing. My advice is to focus always on your audience and what they need to know and what you need to share with them. But if the platforms are saying that video is more important or there's a new feature here, then you need to pay attention. I have a resource that I curate on a daily, weekly basis. It's called the lighthouse.social with all the social media updates from 6 or 7 different platforms plus resources. If you need to keep up to date, please do have a look at that resource. And again, I would advise, you know, my top tips are review your data monthly, quarterly, however you can, and apply a start, stop, continue to it. Is this working? I'll keep going. Not really working? I'll stop. What's happening? What are other people doing? What are the new features? Let me start something and try and test it. They're the 3 words. I will do my reporting literally with those headings and bullet points underneath it as well if I'm communicating with colleagues. Focus on what matters, focus on what you can control and what you have the resources for. As your takeaways from today, it's a good time, it's end of year, beginning of another, do an audit, have a housekeeping check, look at your bio, header graphics, use some pin posts, manage social media, don't let it manage you. I know it's easy to say, but you are really important, so do stay in control of your time and resources. Define some objectives and focus on them. Stay focused. Remember, it's not just about Gen Z or Gen Alpha. Our parents, our carers, our wider communities are important too. Follow each other for ideas and inspiration, and just look at your own data and just try and continually improve on what you're doing. Set your own benchmarks, set your own objectives, look at others for ideas and what's working. But at the end of the day, this is a process that's working within a world of change. So just try and keep doing what's working and make small tweaks to go to the next level. James, before I announce the winner, have we got any questions?
Yeah, thanks for that, Luan. So we had some questions which were submitted beforehand. So obviously all the insight that you've given, I think, was quite positively driven. So it's good positive posts, etc. There is obviously a negative side to some of the social media, and I think one of the things that goes across both schools, academies, and universities is trolling, and advice around how the institutions can deal with that to protect both staff and students.
Yeah, I'm not going to deny it does happen, unfortunately, and it may be prevalent on some platforms more than others. It is an offence. It's an offence under the Malicious Communications Act if people are posting anything offensive, threatening, false information. You can sometimes plan ahead, not about specific posts, but overall, what kind of negativity do you think your institution might receive overall at specific points in time? If decisions have been made, are you kind of planning for negative feedback and what your responses might be? If you receive messages, sometimes they're in the direct messages, you can manage those. Sometimes they are public comments. If they are public comments, again, context matters. Try and acknowledge them and try to take them offline or to a direct message. Don't get into a wider ongoing conversation publicly. Try and take them off. But the first things you need to do is kind of triage them. Who's posted? Have they posted before? Are they a repeat offender? And in terms of content, does this need escalating? Is it something that you can manage with a response to it, a quick response via a DM, or is it actually a more serious incident, receiving multiple comments that you need to escalate and kind of make a statement, perhaps? Remember, you can switch off comments on posts if there's some negativity happening, and you can hide comments as well on Facebook. Hiding the comment means the original post will still see it, but other people won't see it. So that can be quite useful. It's not nice, it does happen, but try and plan ahead for a crisis happening, but do try and just acknowledge and take it off the public domain as quickly as you can.
That's great. Thanks, Luan. Another one that came through was that obviously you talked about emerging platforms, and there seems to be a new platform every other year. But I think that the ones that have been around for a while, Twitter, Facebook, it seems to be becoming more unpredictable in terms of where they're going. So one of the questions around Elon Musk and Twitter and your thoughts on what's happening there and how it may affect the institutions themselves in terms of their use of the platform.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone has been asked by a colleague, what's happening with Twitter? Are we going to stop using it? Something has probably changed throughout the duration of this session in terms of what Elon Musk has been doing since his takeover, and I'm not going to comment on his leadership or what he's doing. My advice is that this is always a place to watch and see what's happening and take your own decisions on it. Some people are abandoning Twitter because of their ethical beliefs and alignment with values. They are stopping advertising. I think there's a balance here between your own objectives and resources and also where your audience are. And I know there's new platforms emerging. Mastodon, Hive, is the new Twitter. There will always be early adopters that move and shift to something else. And if you have a full-time role in social media and time to be kind of 1 foot in the future, that's brilliant that you can watch it and see what's going on, but ultimately you're dealing with the day-to-day as well, and this is about focusing on where your audience are and communicating with them. It's a communications channel, and actually it is just one. We're still emailing, we're still sending flyers out and printed material, so be aware. I think with Twitter right now, I've said it for many months, knowing that the sale was going to come through, watch it, but I don't think there's any need for a knee-jerk shift reaction. I think things will be kind of emerge over time, and new platforms will come through. There's always questions to ask, are my audience there? Does this fit with my objectives? Can I create content for it? And do I have the resources? And we saw at the beginning, people are using multiple platforms. I would rather everyone did 1 or 2 platforms really well than try and spread themselves too thinly across too many platforms, and just adding new platforms in is an extension of that. So focus and where your audience are right now.
Another question that came in was around user-generated content. So getting looking out for the staff and students posts. What's the best way of assessing which posts to go after and promote and like and share as an institution?
Yeah, I think user-generated content is great. It saves you time. A lot of institutions will share in their bios, particularly on Instagram, share a picture of campus life, use this hashtag and we'll share it. So if you can kind of create your own campus institution hashtag that is then easy for you to monitor, using a listening tool within a social media management platform, it makes it really easy for you to find that content to share it. Again, people may create content organically, but sometimes telling them what to do. Are you at an open day? Share a picture. Are you coming to this event? Share a picture. Take pictures around campus and we'll share them for you. But if you can encourage them to use a hashtag, so it's easy for you to identify and then share, even better. Lots of people will tag you in. I have a client at the moment that's outside your sector, but we have so much user-generated content, and I get notifications on it all day. So I just have to sit and filter through and watch it. But the more you can kind of tell people what you want in user-generated content, that will be more helpful to you as well.
So we've gone through the questions. I'm conscious of the time, so I think we're going to move on to the competition winner. So we did a competition at the Schools and Academies show, which was that you could win a free promo video for your school, academy or college, produced and edited by the SoCrowd video team. So we had a number of people that entered, or institutions that entered the competition. So Luann, could you tell us the lucky winner?
Yeah, the winner is Seaton Valley Federation.
Brilliant. Well, look, Seaton Valley Federation, congrats. Well done. The SoCrowd team will be in touch to get that video up. And of course, it will be done in the name of best practice videos for social media. But for now, can I thank you, Luann, for your presentation? It was really insightful. Can I thank the audience for attending? We had a good turnout today. We will, of course, be doing more webinars and masterclasses on social media, so look out for what's coming up next. We will drop you the recording of this session so that you have the notes in video format, so you can take these learnings away. And if you're interested in looking at a social media management platform, then of course, I can only but plug SoCrowd.com one more time. Have a look. Do get in contact. Plenty of institutions use us like you, and see the real benefits in terms of enhancing and protecting the reputation. So thank you very much, and we're bang on time, so enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and thanks for attending.
Thank you.